Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and wow, thank you so much for hanging out with us here today. We have two massive topics to get into to start your Monday off right. Of course, I'm here with Fuzzy Belvedere, one half of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. Fuzzy, how you doing, brother? How was your weekend? Welcome back.
Well, I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you this morning. Yeah, we got some kind of like breaking news or some over the weekend news to talk about, but glad to be here. Got my cat up here begging for attention, but he'll be on and off camera throughout the episode today. But this should be a fun one.
Yeah, you know what, folks? Listen, the two topics we're going to get into, and obviously just bear with us because obviously we kind of like to lay it out for you, just so you know what we're talking about. Sean Layden was interviewed, and I got to tell you, the interviewer was phenomenal. Now he has and I say small because it's about literally about our size. I think we're actually either tied or close to it. The name of the interviewer, the name of the channel that I want you guys and gals to go check out. It's a PlayStation podcast. It's called Kiwi Talkz with a Z. He has 15,500 subscribers, which is right, I think right where we are. I think we're like right there. First, I want to give him a shout out because his show notes, his timestamp game, unbelievable. So go check him out if you want to watch the interview in full. It's 59, almost 60 minutes. He asks Sean a bunch of questions. The one that we are going to dig into is the response to Xbox going multiplat. And normally, as we've known, Fuzzy, Sean Layden likes taking shots at Xbox. He does. He does it candidly, and he does it in a way that if you're not looking, you miss it. I want to break down what he said. Second half of the show, folks, we got some information over the weekend, which I find to be very exciting. Now, right now, I'm playing Avowed, and I can't talk about it. And I'm busting at the seams because all I want to do is talk about it, but I'm not allowed to. This is going to be a really, really good good review that we're doing. And they gave me enough time. I had the game 2 weeks, and I will have the game 2 weeks before its launch. And that gives me a lot of time to beat the game, give you a score. I'm playing. I'm doing notes. I was up this morning at I think 2 a.m. I played till 3:30. The other day I played until 5 o'clock in the morning. The night before I played to 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm putting some time in. I got almost 20 hours in so far. Of course, I'm taking lots of notes. I can't talk about it. I can't even give you a hint of what I think. But I saw some people. There's some things out there, but they're not out there from us. We will give you the full review on the 13th when the embargo lifts. I'm looking forward to doing that. But why I bring up Avowed, why I bring up The Outer Worlds 2 for the second half of the show, Fuzzy Belvedere, is because, well, thanks to a report, and this is the one that I got. I pulled it from one of my favorite places to get news from, and that is VGC. And the original writer for Fallout New Vegas is back with Obsidian. That's a really big deal. I got some thoughts, but Fuzzy Belvedere, I do want to open up with, of course, the Sean Layden interview. I got it queued, ready to go. It's about 2 minutes and change. Of course, if you want to watch the whole interview, the link for Kiwi Talkz, his channel, is there so you can subscribe, as well as, of course, a link to the video if you want to watch the video in whole. Again, excellent interviewer. I've never heard of him. I know. Shout out to a couple of people on Twitter who actually posted this particular clip that we're going to watch. And J-Rock is the one that originally posted it. And Jay's, obviously he's out there doing the gaming guy's work on the socials. And I never heard of Kiwi Talkz. Well, now I'm subscribed to his channel because I think he is a solid interviewer. He has a very good way of speaking, and I want to see what else he's going to do, who else he is going to interview. But this Sean Layden interview was pretty good, folks. So let me just set that up and do a screen share right now so you guys and gals can see and hear exactly what I'm talking about. And again, I think it is a phenomenal interview. It's a little, like I said, look, let's just be clear here. Anyone that has been following the channel for a long time knows that I talk very highly about Sean Layden. That is not a front. That is not trying to be facetious. He has always been my favorite rah-rah guy for PlayStation because he used to get out there and he used to slap the high fives with the fans. He was very excitable. And some things happened to him with Sony, and they kind of sent him on his way. And we heard some things, some stuff is confirmed, some things are rumored about the way he was treated on his way out. And it wasn't done right. If you don't know who Sean Layden is, let's say, for instance, you're new to the podcast game. He is the former CEO and chairman of PlayStation and SIE. And he was that, he held that position for many, many years. Again, one of my favorite executives over at PlayStation. Well, he's now retired. He was working with Tencent for a little while. I don't know if he's still working with them. But the interviewer, Kiwi Talkz, actually made mentions of it to him, and he replies to it about being retired. So maybe that's retired from Sony he's talking about, or retired from the game in total. I'm not exactly sure, but Fuzzy, in the past, Sean Layden has many times, or more times than not, kind of tried and succeeded in some aspects, throwing Xbox under the bus. But I do want to let you play. Well, I'm going to play the interview. Again, it's about 2 minutes, folks. Take a listen, and we'll break it down.
Of making their IPs multi-platform, and will it increase or diminish Xbox brand value in the eyes of gamers?
Multi-platform is a strategy. Multi-platform, particularly in a world where the cost of development is increasing dramatically. Multi-platform means widening your addressable market, as the marketing guys say. Just getting more people a chance to see it. So I certainly can understand, appreciate, and welcome that ability to have Xbox games appearing on other platforms. What it does to their brand, I think, it makes the conversation harder to create. What you mentioned earlier is the FOMO. How do you create the FOMO? Trying to do that by bringing everyone to your platform, saying if you're not here, you're missing out. But if it's available on all platforms, that's one of your marketing tactics you can't use. You can't say it's only available here if it's available everywhere. So it's a balancing act, right? I'm increasing my addressable market. Yay, that's good. I'm making it harder to sell the only on my platform story over here. So we've seen it before. I mean, I was in the business when Sega brought their Dreamcast titles to PlayStation 2. And in time, then Sega became a software-only company and have done a great transformation in that respect. Let's be honest. They're doing great.
Yeah.
So it does have historical precedence.
It's interesting because
So I'm going to pause it there, folks. Let me bring up the full screen. Let me do the stop the screen share and bring me and Fuzzy's beautiful face back up to you. Now, look, here's the thing, folks. I don't understand. There are a couple of points of contention. Please let me go on my small mini rant. I'm not going to curse. I'm not going to get blow my mohawk off or anything like that. It's frustrating, Fuzzy, listening to Sean, who I have a great deal of respect for. Let's make this clear. This isn't going to be a pile on a rabbit situation. But I don't understand why it's being brought up that Dreamcast titles came to PlayStation, and then after that, well, Dreamcast went away. Well, there are a couple of very important points here. Number one, yes, hardware sales are down. They're down terribly. No one is going to even try to sugarcoat it, Fuzzy. Hardware sales for Xbox, not great. But they are not only a hardware company, they are a software company, and they are a services company first and foremost. And from every conversation you hear on the interwebs, it doesn't matter what podcast it is, it doesn't matter what brand it is, anyone continuing to take shots at Microsoft because they have confirmed already this year that you're getting that PlayStation and Nintendo is probably going to get multiple Xbox exclusives. Now, for PlayStation specifically, Indiana Jones, Doom the Dark Ages, Forza Horizon 5, right? Is Starfield in there? Probably. Is Hellblade 2 somewhere in there? Probably. Does the list continue to go on? Yes. Is Xbox dead? No. They are making money. They're making 70% of the profit of every game sold on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. Now, old guys like me, we don't like it. And we're probably never going to like it. But this is the business. Now, the factor here about Xbox is they have a service that gives you an inherent value that's unlike anything else in gaming, right? There's no other, there just isn't anything else like Xbox Game Pass. They have probably crossed the threshold of 40 million subscribers. And at some point, when the normies know about it, and whether or not the purchase of TikTok goes through or it doesn't, they're going to have to figure out a way to push the envelope on Xbox Game Pass, getting it into the zeitgeist conversation of the normies. They already have the 30 or 40 million consumers like us that they continue to get every time they put a new box in. And we know they're coming out with a new box. See, the whole point of his pointing out there could be no hardware for Xbox is a bit facetious, in my opinion. It's a little small-minded or even narrow-seeing, because Xbox has already announced that they're working on two pieces of hardware. This is confirmed, folks. This isn't breaking news. We know this already. The handheld is on the way, and so is the next hybrid box. Now, why buy an Xbox? We're going to get into that more specifically on Wednesday. I'm writing a whole original script for that. I've been talking with Kay Asante behind the scenes, and I think it's a conversation I kind of really want to have, because depending on what camp you follow, there's no reason to buy an Xbox, and that's okay for you. That's not okay for me, because I don't play on PC, and I don't want to. Now, give me a PC like box. Well, no, that's something I can get behind. Now, again, in the conversation here, again, it's only a few minutes, and he's not attacking Xbox or anything, so please don't throw any hate mail towards poor Sean Layden. This is his opinion. He is an ex-executive for PlayStation. He bleeds blue if you cut him, and we saw it live on the air here and many times before it. But the truth of the matter is that when he suggests why an Xbox, well, I mean, Fuzzy and I went over it, I think it was last Monday. There is a host of things that the Xbox does in regards to like services that you get on the box that you don't get on PlayStation, right? There are certain things that the Xbox does, like smart delivery and quick resume and all these different things that PlayStation doesn't do. And, you know, I mean, if you want to bring it down to the brass tacks of it, for me, it's definitely the controller, because I'm sorry, I like the DualSense. I don't love it. And I hate those sticks across from each other with my thumbs. That's not the way I play games. That's why I choose Xbox. And I think really for a lot of people, that's why they choose Xbox. But Fuzzy, I want to return it to you, because there are a couple of points of contention here that were left out of the conversation. Now, granted, again, these weren't asked by the interviewer. And of course, that interviewer, once again, is Kiwi Talkz. All of his information and his links to his channel will, of course, be in the show notes. So please go check him out. Sub him. He's literally tied with me with subs. So I don't know how many years he's been in the business, but again, really good interviewer, excellent interviewer. A couple of key points that were left out, and that's the Game Pass factor. You're asking people to spend $76.43 on a game like Forza Horizon 5 that's been out for 4 years. Now, granted, I don't think they're getting any bargains on that. That it's going to cost full price. Now, what they include with that, well, that I don't know. Do you get one DLC? Do you get 2 DLC? Do you get 50 cars, 100? I don't know. They're going to figure it out. But you're paying full boat for that. You're not paying full boat for Doom the Dark Ages. You're not paying full boat for Avowed. You're not paying full boat for South of Midnight, which is a $40 game rather than $70. These are in your service. That is left out of the conversation. That is a driving factor, especially when what's going on in this freaking planet right now, Tariff City. You know what? Shout out to, and again, make fun of me, folks. It's fine. I don't mind. Shout out to Neo Game Spark, which, by the way, is a huge member of the community, inspiration to me personally, because his workout game is ridiculous. That guy's an Adonis. He put out a tweet yesterday evening, which I even showed Mrs. Boom, and it really should make you think about Game Pass versus $76.43. He said this, folks. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but this is what he said. I understand that people are tired of talking about the egg situation. He goes, but how is it that organic ground beef costs less than a dozen eggs? And that, my friends, is why you should consider Xbox Game Pass, because it ain't going to end with the eggs. And I know people are laughing. You're on the other side. Maybe you're laughing with me. I hope that you are. Some people are laughing at me for talking about real life in the podcast. I hear you. I'm right there. I don't shy away from the laughing. But these are the realities. And again, just rewinding it right back. This was left out of that. Why, Microsoft can afford to do multiplat, because they're not Sega. They're a $3 trillion company. Sega was on the outs. The Dreamcast was on the outs. We know the story, folks. So I again, no offense to Sean, but the comparison's a bit facetious in my opinion. Maybe even a little bit disingenuous. Just saying. That depends on, your mileage may vary on that one. I want to get your thoughts on this, Fuzzy.
Well, I'd like to look at it as far as I remember the time when the Dreamcast came out and kind of I can't even say the word. It petered off kind of deal.
Yes.
And this is from somebody that was using his own money to buy the 3DX or 32X on his Genesis, and then the Sega CD. And after spending that money, went and bought a Saturn with his own money. And then the Dreamcast was like, it felt like a year or two later.
Might even have been a year yet. I was like 98, 99, boom, Dreamcast. There you go.
Yeah, I was like, I'm done. Like the fact that they kept on making hardware. Yeah, they had some great games at the time, but I was out. I figured if I'm spending this kind of money, and the original PlayStation 1 was a reasonable price, I'll go with that. And then I fell into the PC space shortly after, looking at the graphics on PC versus, the PS1 at the time. But it was a different time when Sega was on its way out. It was a different atmosphere as far as gaming. PC crowd wasn't necessarily as big on the gaming aspect. There was PC gaming, but from what I can recall, it wasn't as big. Like, it was a lot bigger, or in comparison to today, it was a lot steeper, area to get into, just for the fact that, you're looking at consoles being between the $200 to $400 range, and your average PCs were starting at $2,400 at the time. So, and this was even before Gateway tried to make like the entry level type of stuff. It was a different landscape altogether. Now, looking at things today, I honestly think it's not that Sean doesn't have an idea, because he's living during this time frame, but from when he was the head of PlayStation versus today, it is still a different landscape.
Yep.
And he saw some of the writing on the wall as far as like first party titles costing more as far as to make, taking longer to produce. That all is a stark reality right now for a lot of these platforms. But when you have it where you can monetize a customer base outside of your existing customers by doing this multi-platform, yeah, it may send a mixed message to your loyal fans, but I think as long as those loyal fans understand where the future is bringing this, as far as the software you own now can be brought forward. We always talk about backwards compatibility, and Microsoft is one of the few companies talking about forward compatibility. And to some extent, the PS4 to PS5, it worked fairly smoothly, except for like one or two titles in the early days. But their PSVR approach really didn't land as well. And by that standard, that's why it's not as successful as what the PSVR 1 was. And Meta Quest is kind of eating their lunch for the most part, being a standalone device where the entry point is like half the price to get in there and play some of the same games at similar, level of fidelity. But as far as what he's saying about the multi-platform approach, yes, it is a strategy. It may not be a strategy he would even try. And like Boom said, it may not even be a strategy that us graybeards would try as well. But it seems to be working in the sense that you have more of a buzz on Forza Horizon 5 landing on PlayStation from the PlayStation Nation, as opposed to the PC crowd being enthused about Spider-Man 2. Bear in mind, Forza Horizon 5 is a much older game, and it's generating more buzz. Now, we'll see how the pre-orders and what the sales numbers look like. I'm figuring it's at least 5 million to sell, maybe even more, because like I've said before, since Drive Club kind of fell off, there is no real arcade racer over there. Sure, there's the same Need for Speed that's over here as well. And sure, there's the Crew Motorfest, which is kind of like the, closest copy you can find, but it still falls short in comparison. I think this is going to be a strategy that shows to pay off. Same thing with Sea of Thieves. Now, obviously, Hi-Fi Rush may not have done as well as they may have anticipated, and we saw some of the fallout from that. But I think if you look at possibly Hi-Fi Rush coming to the Switch 2, it might be a totally different story. So we'll see how that pans out. But in the grand scheme of things, I think Sean Layden still likes taking shots at Xbox, without it being in your face. And you can tell by the smirks what he's saying. Yeah, it's a strategy. But once again, he's no longer the head of PlayStation, and there's a reason for that. And whether he wants to take shots at the current leadership over at Xbox, they've outlasted several generations of leadership over at PlayStation. So for them being in third place, but now the revenue and profitability is a lot greater. Sure, the revenue number might not be as high, but if your margins are higher, then it doesn't really matter. If you're making 10% more than your competitor for every dollar that you take in, then you're already ahead. And that's one of the things where games as a service is that thing that Sony is still trying to do that hasn't seemed to grab their customer base. Now, hopefully that changes. Like, hopefully they'll have more Helldiver 2 situations and then not spoil it on the PC end of things with the PSN stuff, which it sounds like they're kind of quietly doing away with it. Well, not doing away with it, but making it less of a priority, and then tempting them like I've said in the past. It's like, tempt the PC crowd with skins or extra content, things like that. That will make it more worth their while to, use your launcher or log into something other than what they already do, where they just hit play to play the game. So I think Layden's approach on this, he has insight as far as the industry, but the industry is changing, and we all see that, especially the fact that PC handhelds didn't exist as much or as strongly in his time frame as they do today. The PC handhelds of his time were the ones that were $1,000 to start, and $1,800 was the average. It was basically a PC gaming laptop in a form factor of like a handheld device. And that was a totally different world where only those that had that kind of money were the ones buying them. Now you can get a Steam Deck, whether it's new or used. They start at, I think, $379 for the LCD. That's something that's easy enough for everybody to get into. And you can hook it to a hub and a monitor and a keyboard and mouse and have a gaming PC on the cheap. Sure, it won't play, Cyberpunk 2077 in the best fidelity, but it will still play Cyberpunk 2077 and a lot of other PC games that don't even come to consoles at this point. Whether you're into the big indie scene or some of the games that you like to hear about in early access, like Hades 2 is still in early access. Sure, it'll eventually come to console, but if you want to help the developer kind of shape the direction that game goes, that's where it's at. And I think Xbox is moving more towards that, blurring the lines between PC and console. And this multi-platform aspect will just make it that much of a cohesive ecosystem. So that way you're not just limited by the box under your TV. You have all these other options, whether you're on the road traveling or at family's house and you're tired of hearing them talk about their days growing up, walking to school uphill both ways kind of stuff.
You mean walking 3 miles to school?
Yeah. You have at least gaming to fall back on, whether it's on your phone or TV, or you take your Series S on the road. There's so many options with the way Xbox is setting things up in comparison. So the one thing's not taken into account.
Yeah, it's not. And again, shout out to the chat. Thank you so much for telling me that you can hear me typing. You can't hear me typing anymore. Do you know why? Because right before we went live, what happened? Well, my PC decided it wanted to reset and do an update, and it changed my mic to the Logitech, which is why it sounded weird. I know some people could still hear me, but it sounded like at a distance. Instead of my Yeti, which is right here. So I'm not going to make that into a separate video. I'm pissed because that was I had a lot to say, and it sucked that you can hear the keyboards. I have the Halo mechanic keyboard, and it's very loud. It's annoying. When I bought it, I got the mat, I got the mouse. I didn't realize that it was a mechanical keyboard, and it makes a lot of noise. So apologies, ladies and gentlemen, for that. It's funny. I was reading something from Destin Legary where he was doing one of his live streams, and he had all kinds of technical difficulty. And I'm like, oh, man, I hate that. And look, live on the air, my computer did an update and took a shit, which sucks. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to make that first opening segment into a separate video because nobody wants to hear a mechanical keyboard. If you listen, folks, I might have lost subs because of it. Apologies. Normally we don't have technical issues. I hate these Windows updates. Oh my God, I hate them, but it's fine. But again, listen, great points all around. Again, check out the interview, Kiwi Talks. His information is going to be in the show notes. Go check him out. If you like him, sub. And if you just want to watch the interview or at least watch that particular part, I believe it's at the 49:03 mark. He has great timestamps, phenomenal work in his timestamps. And again, that's just to open up the show. And again, apologies for the technical shenanigans, if you will. But I do, Fuzzy Belvedere, want to get right into this Fallout story. Now, again, I am playing Avowed. I can't say much about it. It's a big game coming out from Obsidian. They are probably, at least in my personal opinion, maybe you'll agree, Fuzzy, maybe other people will agree. Maybe some people will even disagree. I like to look at Obsidian, and when you consider what they've done in the past and what they have been doing, they are the Insomniac Games of Xbox Games Studios. That's just my take on it. When you compare, what both companies have done for each publisher. Obviously, they've had some smaller titles. One of which is Grounded, which wound up being something really big, passion project, right? The Outer Worlds 1, phenomenal game. Pentiment, Josh Sawyer, that's a his game. He wanted to tell that story. Good for him. A lot of people that played it enjoyed it, which is awesome. But this is where we kind of get into, what's next for Obsidian, Fuzzy Belvedere? Because, okay, Avowed coming out in a couple of weeks. Awesome, right? End of the year. And at least we think that it's the end of the year. It could be sooner, but I think they would bookend the year, and it makes sense to have the Outer Worlds 2, which is going to be a big RPG from Obsidian. So now you say, well, what's next for them? Because we're always looking around the corner. And a lot of these devs, they need a break, right? They put all these hours into working on the game, and they just need a break. Like, oh my God, I need a vacation. But most of them are right back at it. And we know that the 2 of them are coming out this year. But what happens afterwards? Well, that might have been answered, Fuzzy. So I kind of want to turn your attention, ladies and gentlemen, to Bethesda for a second. Now, Bethesda, they have a lot going on, right? They put out Starfield, great success. They put out the first DLC, very marred in controversy. Some people loved it like me. Some people actually hated it. I hear you, right? We're not here to argue about that. Indiana Jones comes out, Machine Games knocks it out of the park. Phenomenal game of the year, quality type of experience. Bethesda last year worked with Amazon to bring Fallout to TV. And Fallout was a raging success to the point where it's the most viewed original IP for Amazon in history, right? It's made unbelievable numbers. And the show, listen, folks, was freaking phenomenal. So there's a fever pitch for a new Fallout, right? Everybody wants to play a new Fallout. I mean, when the show came out, like, just talk to whoever your favorite content creator is. Everyone was playing Fallout. Everyone was playing Fallout New Vegas. Everyone went right back to Fallout 3, Fallout 4, right? Fallout 76 got a boost. But there's no Fallout 5. And I don't think we're getting one for at least another 5 years. Why is that? Well, the Elder Scrolls is currently being worked on, and that's the next big one, folks. And they have a big studio over at Bethesda, and there's a lot of teams over there that could help. But here's the problem. The problem is that there's no one to do a Fallout game. That is until now. In a story that I pulled from VGC.com, and it was written by Andy Robinson, the title says this, ladies and gentlemen: Fallout New Vegas's lead writer has rejoined Obsidian, but insists it's not for a sequel. This is where we're going to put on our detective hats there, Fuzzy Belvedere. So the New Vegas writer, John Gonzalez, is Obsidian's newest creative director. The story goes on to say the lead writer of Fallout New Vegas has returned to developer Obsidian after 14 years away from the company. It goes on to say John Gonzalez announced the news on his LinkedIn profile this week, confirming that he's taken up the role of creative director. However, according to the writer, his new job is not for Fallout New Vegas 2. After his previous stint at Obsidian in 2008 to 2011, Gonzalez was notably a writer on Monolith's Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, the lead writer for Guerrilla's Horizon Zero Dawn, and the narrative director for its sequel, Forbidden West. Now, obviously, we got to get into this because where there's smoke, there's fire, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, if he joins anyone else, you can say that there's not going to be a new Vegas 2. Fine, whatever. But I think that Bethesda is in a position where they didn't have a game to strike while the iron was hot with the new series. And the new series brought a lot of new fans, a lot of casual fans to the brand that they may not have had. Now, granted, you can put them on easy, but if you don't know what you're doing, the wasteland is punishing. And there really isn't no straight line. Like, you know that there's a story, but it's pretty dense. And if you're not really a gamer, you're going to get lost in the sauce. You really are. You're going to get lost and frustrated. Like, that's it. I'm not playing this game. It's stupid. Right? And I can understand that. But Bethesda finds themselves in a bit of a pickle because they still have to support Starfield, right? Starfield potentially is getting ported over to other brands, other platforms. PlayStation is definitely getting it at some point. Maybe it goes to the Switch too. That's a possibility. Indiana Jones, we already know is going over there. That's being handled by Machine Games. But they don't have anything in the pipeline, or at least according to Todd Howard and company, for Fallout. Now, Fallout 76 is still getting support. I know a lot of people are like, hey, Boom, you should play it. You can play it like a single player. It's great. It's this, that. You know what? People said the same thing about the Elder Scrolls Online, and I got into it once, and I'm like, yeah, this is not what I want out of the next Elder Scrolls. I want a single-player, story-driven type of experience. I don't want any multiplayer. Do not put your peanut butter in my chocolate, please. Thank you. Right? So, Fuzzy Belvedere, this is great news. Now, you have a theory that I think is actually spot on because, again, you go back to what John Gonzalez said, and he's throwing it out there. Hey, everyone, I'm back, but I'm not back to do New Vegas 2. Okay. But are you back to do a Fallout game? Well, that wasn't asked or answered. Because I want you to drive this point home because I think it's brilliant. Talk about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will automatically assume like the sequel would be the way to go. A New Vegas 2. It just makes perfect sense. But considering how large the Fallout universe is, there's other states that we can do. Like a couple have mentioned in the chat that they could possibly be in Chicago this go round. If I'm not mistaken, I'm under the impression the TV series is based around Hollywood, so it could be New Hollywood or something along those lines. Like there's so many other areas within the country as far as for the Fallout franchise that he could be working on a new story that could be within that same timeline or further down the road timeline, like what may take place after what's occurring in the TV series. I think the TV series and the Fallout 5, the mainline story, will probably have some overlap, but this could be something like either a stopgap in between or something completely different just to kind of keep us grounded in that universe. But yeah, no one asked him if he's working on anything Fallout related, just New Vegas 2. And he might not be lying. He might not be working on a New Vegas 2, but he could be, like somebody said, a new Chicago or a new Los Angeles, or I forget what they call Los Angeles in the game. But it could be a number of locations. And I think that's in the cards because I don't know if people know, like Microsoft owns the original Fallout 1 through 3 devs and the New Vegas devs and the Fallout devs. Like they could do a mixture of all of the above and have like maybe a remaster through InXile being the ones that did the original, I think 1 and 2, or they were under a different name at that point, but they were behind that original Fallout. People still like that isometric style, so maybe they do a remaster while, Obsidian, the ones that are like the champions of being able to churn out quality content within a reasonable amount of time, they could be working on something that's in the vein of New Vegas 2, but not really a New Vegas 2. And then we'll get our Fallout 5, hopefully 5 years to 6 years after, Elder Scrolls 6, which I still think with some hope and dreams, 2026 for that. But yeah, I think he is working on something in the Fallout universe. No one's probably allowed to ask him exactly what that might be. But the hints have all been made between Sawyer and a few other people over at Obsidian that they would love to do something in the Fallout universe. And it originally, before the TV series hit off, it seemed like Todd may have been a little hesitant to hand his baby off because I guess he was figuring, well, they would be doing like a Fallout 5 and that's my child kind of thing. But I think in the grand scheme of things, he sees that the popularity of that TV series ignited something in the fan base and grew the fan base tremendously. So if there's different versions, or not different versions, but different storylines, much like if you look at the whole Walking Dead, that sparked or sparked a lot of other, spin-off sequels, some successful, some not as successful, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of people were, hungry for more, Walking Dead content, both in games as well as in the TV series. And some of the games landed, some of them not so well. One that I was looking forward to didn't actually make the light of day type of deal. But it's great to see that, we have one of the Fallout New Vegas directors back at Obsidian. I can only imagine it's something Fallout related. And I guess we'll just have to be patient and see, considering how, quick the turnout content Obsidian is. Maybe it's in 3 years. Maybe there was something in the background as far as like the landscape and stuff that they kind of, prototyped. And now he'll be the one to really help with the storyboard and moving forward. And they may be able to knock that out in a shorter period of time. But I can't wait to see what he's back at Obsidian doing.
Z Black Writer in the chat said something very interesting, and I think he might actually be onto something. He said Fallout 5 by Obsidian would be awesome. And I'm here to tell you, folks, look, Todd Howard, please don't throw virtual tomatoes at me. I love the Fallout series. I started on 3 because, again, the other Fallouts, just not my bag, right? So I did Fallout 3. I think I missed one achievement out of all, even the DLCs. I played it for hundreds of hours. Absolutely loved it. I didn't enjoy 4 as much as 3. But for me personally, folks, and I think a lot of people are going to agree here. My favorite Fallout game by far was New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas by Obsidian is the GOAT. In my personal opinion. Now, again, if you push back on it, I hear you. Maybe you love 3 more than New Vegas. Maybe you loved 4 because of the base building. Hated that aspect of it. I did the most cheapy thing you could possibly imagine. I think I built like a turret and just stuck it down in the middle just to get the achievement. I built a town. Yay! I got it. And it just starts shooting people. It's great. I didn't like that aspect of it at all. But I love 3. Shout out to the Black John. He loved 3 as well. Yeah, I was absolutely adored it. So for me, in the Fallout series, it would be New Vegas 1, Fallout 3 number 2, and Fallout 4 number 3. I don't even count 76, not because it's not a good game. A lot of people love it, and that's great. It's gotten a lot of new fans. They continue to update it. MMOs are just not my bag. I barely have the time to play regular single player games, let alone MMOs. It's just I just don't have the time for it. But I want to kind of just talk about this for a second because you made mention of something that's very interesting. He's very vocal, talking about Todd Howard. Fallout's his baby. Just like Indiana Jones, just like Starfield. That guy, it takes this stuff personal, as he should. That's why he's a good director. Great director. I would say diamond in the industry, for sure. But I think that there's got to be a point of contention in the conversation between him and Phil and, of course, the head of Obsidian. Maybe they do some sort of a collab, right? Like, why couldn't Obsidian handle a lot of the heavy lifting? Because that's the thing. And this is why I think that they're bringing John back in is a big deal because they're almost done with their projects. This year, folks, you're going to have Avowed in 2 weeks. And by year's end, I'm thinking maybe it happens in the summer. Maybe it's September. Maybe it's October. You're going to have the Outer Worlds. Both of their big projects will be released to the world. That's it. They're done. They got to be working on something else. And looking down the pipeline, it's got to be something Fallout related. Again, maybe he's being honest. Maybe it isn't for New Vegas 2, which honestly, it's fine. I would love a New Vegas 2, but my biggest problem with the way Bethesda is set up right now is I don't want to be. I'm going to be 55 in September, folks. So I'm getting up there, right? Now I'm going to be around at least another 30 or 40 years for sure. Because that's my goal. Get in good shape, make the NYPD pay until the cows come home. That's the whole point of a pension, right? But I don't want to be 60 playing the next Fallout, man. I don't want to. I mean, you want to make me 57, 58. All right. But past 60, nah, folks. I don't want that. So I'm maybe I'm being a greedy gamer. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that they could do justice for Fallout 5? And more importantly, this is the important factor. Would Todd Howard allow it? Is the question, Fuzzy.
I think if he has final say, I think he would allow it, but he would have the creative control. Like,
okay.
I think it would come down to him like setting the tone for the story, letting them run wild within that universe and try to keep things canon, I guess. But I think as long as he has the final say and could be like, no, we're not going to work on this section of a map, or we're not going to have this type of set piece type of thing, I think he would be fine with it. I would love to see them do a collaboration. Like, keep in mind, In Exile is great for story beats in that type of environment, like a post-apocalyptic type of world. Obsidian is great at RPGs in general, and they knocked it out of the park with New Vegas. But I think all parties and Bethesda, the team proper themselves, can definitely handle doing a Fallout 5. But I think maybe they do the finishing up work with the groundwork that Todd set for the other two teams. And then they kind of get it across the finish line type of deal. And it still have its persistent world. It still have its, interactivity with the NPCs and things along those lines. And I think when it comes to what Obsidian can contribute, it would be like maybe the twist of plot type of scenarios, or the meaningful decisions that could backfire. Same thing with In Exile, because they kind of both do those types of things where your choices will matter. Not that Bethesda doesn't, but it's a little bit different involved. It's like there's no real right answer type of thing with some of their options and things. But I really would like to see a Fallout of something, even if it's a remaster. Like, I know we've heard some rumors of possibly a 3 remaster, or possibly 1 and 2 being remastered, just because of the the age of those and having them brought to current standard. I would love to see something fall out within the next couple of years. And I hope there was something that, even though they didn't clearly announce it when the TV series was working, I'm hoping that they have something to maybe show at the summer showcase this year and be like, hey, we're working on this, or, stay tuned till next year for the release of, this, Fallout entry kind of thing. So, but 5, with it being potentially 26 for Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 5, 2030. I hope maybe it's earlier than 2030, but that's kind of my guess. But then again, I'm hoping, not saying I want AI to kind of help speed things up, but maybe it makes it easier after the main story beats are done, the bug testing and all that type of stuff. Maybe the AI can shorten that time span to polishing the game before release type of deal. But it would be nice to have something fall out, anything, within the next couple of years, especially with the TV series. It'll probably be good to go for at least 3 to 5 years, and however many seasons they can squeeze in between. So something in the middle of that would be awesome.
Well, interestingly enough, no spoilers here, folks. Hopefully you watched the Fallout series already, right? I'm not going to give you any particulars, but there was an ending scene after the credits. Okay? And look, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying that we have here John Gonzalez is fibbing, right? We're not saying that he is not telling the truth, or the half-truths, if you will. But if you watched after the credits, Fuzzy, and again, folks, close your ears if you don't want spoilers. There is a particular place they're going, and that's New Vegas. They show it in the distance. So if the story that is, look, it's a hit, folks. It's Amazon's biggest new IP ever. It brought everybody to the yard, even the normies, right? And they're going to New Vegas. I mean, now maybe you remaster Fallout New Vegas, maybe you remake Fallout New Vegas to kind of just play this until we get done with that. And I don't think anybody would actually complain, because the rumor, bringing it right back to Bethesda, is the Oblivion remake. Not a remaster, remake in Unreal Engine 5. And I got to tell you, if there's anything that proves that could be a winner, look what they did with Ninja Gaiden 2.
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden 2 and Unreal Engine 5 is amazeballs. I mean, it's freaking phenomenal, gory, fast, punishing as all hell. But that was a remake in Unreal Engine 5. So if they do that to that game, wow. I mean, Oblivion is one of my favorite RPGs, and they give it to us in Unreal Engine 5. Yes, please. Now, there is another rumor, Fuzzy, that they remade Fallout 3.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? Well, that hasn't come up. That happened to be brought up in the conversation during the court battle, ABK, right? And we haven't heard anything since then. But that would be kind of dope also. But I really think that this is an opportunity. When you own Inexile, you own Bethesda, and you own Obsidian, right? 3 of the best RPG makers. It just so happens that all 3 studios, ladies and gentlemen, worked on Fallout at one point or another.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is one of those situations. And again, this is just me just spitballing, folks. We're just talking, right? You might think I'm a lunatic, and that's fine. But Fuzzy, just elaborate on that for a second, because Fallout 5, if we're going by the numbers, you said it, 2030, could be 2031. And shout out to Will Broke Boy Lewis. He said at 60, I'm going to be playing something. Why not Fallout 5? Because I want Fallout 5 now. I'm a greedy gamer, goddammit. That's what I want. Sorry. But so Microsoft or Xbox Game Studios has Inexile. They have Obsidian, and of course they have Bethesda. All 3 worked on Fallout at some capacity or another.
Yeah.
When you see the way Call of Duty is made, right? It's usually an all hands on deck kind of a situation. And we saw what happened more specifically and more recently with Black Ops 6. Best in the series.
Yeah.
Best Call of Duty in decades. It's my favorite Call of Duty of all time. There's no doubt about it. It is a phenomenal game from start to finish. The single player is amazing. Multiplayer, even better, in my opinion. What if there was an opportunity to have these 3 studios just work together on the next Fallout? Like, a collab would be dope. Like, how freaking awesome would it be to have the hands of all of these Fallout studios in the creation of Fallout 5? Now, granted, folks, I know this is a super, fever dream, but it's possible.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts on that?
I think it would be an awesome thing. Just considering that some of the studios within Xbox proper now already share technology or tech tips and things along those lines. So having it where you have the best in the business as far as for RPGs working together, having access to all the tools within Xbox Studios and Activision and whatnot, I think at that point you set yourself up to have a quadruple A. I know people hate that term because we barely get triple A sometimes as far as the releases from other areas. But when it comes to having all of those great studios working together, I can't imagine what level of detail or world size. we always talk about maybe a map doesn't need to be, the size of the whole country kind of thing, but they would have it where all of those teams working together can make it that much more lived in. And I think that would be the big thing. Sure, it's post-apocalyptical. You're going to have some of the radioactive, monsters out there on the surface, but imagine having it where you can go to a lot of different shelters. You're trekking across a decent chunk of the country. That would be huge. Or maybe they figure out a way to, I can't imagine any type of flight or anything like that, but I know with the mod team that made the basically Fallout Europe or something, maybe you can connect some of the previous locations within that, collab built game. Maybe Fallout 5 is a not unification, but a mixing of some of those shelters where it's like, okay, it's past a certain amount of time. These shelters are still active. What experiments were going on? Can you solve the puzzles from those experiments? Can you find any, salvageable survivors from that you would add to your crew or to your shelter and move on from there? But I can't imagine how great that would be. Like it as much as I didn't have the experience I was hoping for Fallout 4 the first time I played it, but going back after playing Starfield and after the TV series, there's so much more that I could see that they could mix into that game that's been in parts of other Fallouts. That's what I would love to see from that type of collaboration. Like that, it would be a love letter to the Fallout fan base at that point. And I think they should definitely consider it. I have a small gut feeling that they are working towards something along those lines. Maybe it's not full on Bethesda because Bethesda will be doing the Fallout 5, but I think there will be some sort of collaboration effort made for a Fallout entry within the next 5 years. But I'm speculating at this point, but that would be an awesome deal for all of them to work together.
It would be something else. Like the hype behind that would be bonkers.
Yeah.
Like when you hear when Call of Duty is being made and you hear that, Raven is working with this one and this one is working with that one, everyone's like, yeah, it's going to be good. It's Call of Duty. This is what they've been doing. The coal mines of Call of Duty, right? The salt mines. No, I'm sorry. The salt mines. That's Kay Asante. Shout out to you, Kay. He's been calling it that for years. The salt mines of Call of Duty. But this would be one of those instances that would just be so cool to talk about, to have all three former Fallout studios collaborating on what could be the biggest Fallout ever. Oh my God. Goosebumps inducing. So, folks, normally this is about an hour, 70-minute kind of show because it's, we started to kind of trim down the shows a little bit. Well, guess what, folks? We got some breaking news here, and it's very interesting, and we're going to kind of extend the show a little bit, so hang out. And actually, it's my way of apologizing. You can hear the stupid keyboard typing away, and this software never makes a mistake, and I'm so angry that the first 27 minutes of the show was effed up. Bungle! You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't like making mistakes, and my computer did an update, and now you can hear me talk. Because again, it's just typing away because I'm trying to, welcome in everybody. That's why you hear me typing. Not that I'm shopping on Amazon while the show is going on. I'm actually trying to say hello to everybody because that's just my way. If you took the time to get here, I at least want to tell you I see you hi, and I want to welcome you in. But before we get to the breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, got to catch up on Super Chats. We got a couple here. I want to thank Will, the Insider Broke Boy Lewis, drops a very generous $5 Super Chat. Will goes on to say, I saw you get online on Saturday night, Double Barrel Gaming, boom. Thought you may have been joining in with our community game Halo night with C Money. Yeah, I was playing Avowed, brother. I haven't even gone back. I missed the whole double XP thing with Call of Duty. I haven't played in 3 days. Like I'm taking this. This is the first time that I've ever gotten a code this far in advance. And kind of just to give you guys and gals the updates of what's going on with the channel. This is once again a big thank you to Microsoft because we have now, as a channel, as a content creation channel, been put into the Xbox Insider program. Now, not the regular Insider program that you have the app. I don't get codes anymore. I get the game sent directly to my console. That's a big deal. That's a monster-sized deal. I've never had that before. It started with, I think it started with Indiana Jones. I'm pretty sure that's where the first one was. So we're in it, which is just incredible. Like, when we started this channel 7 years ago, we were happy to have 5 people show up in the live stream. And now we have over 500 watching live across 3 different platforms. It's a really big deal. But yeah, so I'm taking this super serious. I got the game 2 weeks in advance. I want to beat the game and roll, another character class or classes, and be able to talk about those different character classes in the review. Like I said, I'm taking notes. I literally, like an old man, have like a pen and paper. I'm writing stuff as I'm playing. It's crazy. I'm recording content. I'm writing stuff down. I pause it. I'm like writing notes. It's crazy how I'm playing this game. But that's what I've been doing. I haven't been to anything. The new what do you call it? Call of Duty stuff looks amazing. The new Halo stuff looks amazing. And I'm trying to just get myself out of it. But Brett Bingham drops a very generous $10 super chat, and he says, I find it funny that just because one example of an anecdotal evidence that multi-platform approach dissolves the platform, everyone assumes it must be true for Xbox now too. Sega was 22 years ago, though. Yeah. Look, I like Sean a lot, and I understand he is a Sony guy. So when he gets an opportunity, he takes a shot at, he takes a shot at Xbox. That's just his way. I don't think he's a bad guy at all. I did think, and I said it before, folks, that the comparison with no context to Sega is a little bit narrow focused, in my opinion. I don't want to say narrow-minded because that guy is the sharpest attack. He's not a knucklehead. That guy knows what he's doing. He was in charge for a long time. But I just think that when you don't add what Xbox is doing as a platform, the things that are available there that are not available on PlayStation, when you leave out of the conversation Xbox Game Pass, which he said was unsustainable. He said that many times, and they made $3 billion last year, and they only spend $1 billion. So, yeah, I think they're doing all right. I'm just saying. I think they're doing okay. I just think that it's a little skewed from my taste, to be honest with you. I don't dislike Sean at all. I just disagree with that take. I just think that the take isn't good. It's not a really good take. Iman Burns has been a channel member for a whopping 32 months. Kind salute to you, sir. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. He says, I think Sony's in big trouble when the Xbox/PC cross comes out, and the Xbox tax seems to be a lot less these days. Boom. How's it going, boys? Let's effing go. You know what? There's still some articles out there, but I think he's onto something, Fuzzy.
Yeah.
Yes, there's tax. Yes, there's some disingenuous takes, sure, but the raging one-sidedness of games media seems to kind of be like moving a little bit, right? Like it's starting to kind of get a little bit even. They don't give Sony the smoke. We give Sony the smoke because they won't. Right. Therefore, I'm not going to lose any development dollars from Sony. They're not supporting Double Barrel Gaming. It's okay. I can talk about them. And even when I talk about Microsoft, listen, if they make mistakes, you gotta put the spotlight on them. I don't care how much of a fan you are. That's how change happens. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get to this breaking news, and it's good gaming news once again for Xbox. Now, this comes the way of VGT Gaming News on Twitter. And this has been leaked, ladies and gentlemen. It was out there for a hot second, was taken off the interwebs. And, well, they say this. The ID at Xbox Showcase returns in partnership with IGN on February 24th. Currently, the announcement article has been taken down by IGN. They accidentally posted it. I actually have the screenshot here of the IGN/ID at Xbox show. Fuzzy, look, I understand that it's the indie show, but make no mistake, today's indies aren't our old school indies. Indie games, because they have a team of 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 or 25, are producing some of the best work we've seen indies do in years, right? And I mean, let's just take a pause, take a step back, folks, and let's talk about Xbox in 2025, right? 24 closes out on a ridiculous high note with Indiana Jones. And yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that only 4 million people played it. I wish it would have been 10 million, and it deserves to have that many people playing that game. Now, is it a failure? No, it's not a failure. It just goes to show you that it's Indiana Jones, and that was my fear. You guys and gals heard me talk about this, especially how many people are going to, be on board for an Indiana Jones. Do some people even know who he is? Does it matter? Well, 4 million people played it. Yeah, that's good, right? But look, again, it is what it is. But they still closed out 2024 on a super high note, in my opinion. And then, of course, the showcase from a couple of weeks ago was the rubber stamp for what I believe is going to be one of the best years in platform history, right? You have 5 games that showed up. 2 were surprises. 1 was a day and date release. Go play it now. Ninja Gaiden 2, Black redone in Unreal Engine 5. Dope, 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 and more dope. Right? Avowed is coming out in 2 weeks. Right? There's South of Midnight confirmed for April. You have Doom the Dark Ages confirmed for May. You have Ninja Gaiden 4 confirmed for the end of the year for holiday of 25. Oh, by the way, in Game Pass. Ridiculous. And now for February, besides the Avowed release, which is going to be, I think, a big one for them, you now have the ID at Xbox showcase. And this is a big deal. It may not be the biggest deal, but I'm a man about consistency. I like back-to-back things because it shows a pattern of success. And here we go. December was big for Game Pass. It was big with games. Indiana Jones hit a home run. Machine Games knocked it out of the park. You start January with a solid group of games going into Xbox Game Pass. You got the showcase. February comes around. Avowed is around the corner. And boom, you got another show, ladies and gentlemen. Another confirmed show. The IGN and partnership with ID at Xbox. Let's talk about that because there is some raging consistency here that I don't know if they're going to get credit for, but they should.
Yeah. It's something that I see a lot of those in the gaming media not really talk about. And I've asked this question of several of them. It's like, when is it that Xbox will finally get recognized for what they're producing? It's like, is it 2 years of them at this cadence? Is it 5 years, 10 years? Because like I look at the cadence that they've had with Forza Horizon in general, and that's always been top notch. And when it comes to a lot of their first party titles that they've released, I guess you could say Redfall was their one, smudge mark at most, but that was allowed to be updated and fixed. It may have been too late for the team, but in general, that one was repaired. But Infinite came out like gangbusters. Sure, on the multiplayer aspect, some of the seasonal stuff behind, but the single player was top notch coming out. Same thing can be said about Gears 4 and 5. So and even the expansion with the Hive Buster. So I don't know why that they're constantly ignored as far as like, oh, well, you know, at some point this Game Pass will be unsustainable. It's like, well, we're now, what is it, 2017, I think, is when I first signed up for Game Pass, when it was only like 99 games in the service. And here we are 8 years later. It's still going. I can't imagine Microsoft's, you know, constantly, you know, holding up something that's unsustainable for 8 years. Maybe 2 or 3 years, sure. 8 years, I don't think so. Especially if they're closing studios in between. Obviously, that shows that, yeah, they wouldn't be constantly propping this up if it wasn't sustainable. And on a second note, it's like when people heard me say I expect to see more at the Dev Direct, I kind of forgot that they do a ID at Xbox partner showcase, because I was expecting like 8 games to be shown, because they have that many games in the works, both first party, you know, second party deals that are kind of like first party publishing, as well as other third party stuff that's coming into the Game Pass service. Like at some point we're going to see a showcase, which I'm assuming maybe Replace gets shown here. Who knows? Maybe Silk Song.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think there's a lot of stuff that's been in the oven and just waiting for that moment to shine, kind of deal. So this partnered showcase kind of, you know, lands what I was expecting them to show for these first few months. Like every month there's going to be something, you know, fairly huge coming into Game Pass, whether it's first party or third party. There's something coming to the service every month. And if you're not the indie player, you know, you don't care for those types of games, I hear you. But for me, ever since, especially after getting my Steam Deck and having some of those games that have been in the service, I actually look forward to a lot of these. That's why I'm looking forward to like an Xbox handheld, because it just feels right playing some of those. Yeah, they look great on the big screen, but it feels right playing them on like a handheld device for the most part. And it brings back a sense of nostalgia without it being actual nostalgia. It's a new game, new, like, actually in some cases, innovative approaches on roguelikes or Metrovanias and things like that. And I never really thought I was that type of gamer. I'm more so into racing and RPGs and such, but there is a niche that I adore about those games and look forward to them. So this showcase coming out on the 24th, I think we get some of the games we've been asking questions about, like Silk Song, like Replaced. I'm still, you know, holding out hope for The Last Night. I know the single dev that's working on that. He's actually kind of found a few techniques on like a pixel rendering thing that I expect to see in some other games, you know, coming into the future, where it's like you could take an old style game and update the resolution a good bit without having to redo the code and stuff like that. So he's breaking ground in one way. I really hope he gets to get the game wrapped up here soon. But there's also that mouse. It almost looks like Mickey Mouse detective kind of game, somewhat in the vein of like.
Oh, you're talking about the first person shooter. Yes, yeah. Dude. Yes, a PI something or other.
Yeah.
I keep seeing like commercials for it. That game looks dope, dude. Like it looks really good.
So I'm wondering if we get a release date on it from there, and yeah, there's tons of stuff that Xbox has been doing. Like I think people don't realize they're building relationships with these smaller devs, and that's why we get a lot of the stuff that we see in ID at Xbox, and that's why you'll find a lot of the devs that put their games into Game Pass, you know, praise it for the exposure. It's hard to get a game in front of people and get the marketing, especially if you're a smaller dev where you've already mortgaged you put a second or third mortgage on your house to kind of just build the game. So the advertising thing is like the hardest, you know, next step. And when things go into Game Pass or they get featured in ID at Xbox, that brings a whole new spotlight of fans to that game that may not have, you know, even know where to look to find that type of game. So I'm looking forward to this showcase, hoping we see some highly anticipated games, like I mentioned, you know, in this showcase, and that they're, you know, somehow squeezed in between. Like I know with April we got South of Midnight at the beginning of the month, and then we got the Expedition 33 at the end of the month.
Yeah.
We could fit something in the middle there, and then whatever we could do for May. I know we already got what do you call it, Doom for that month, so maybe something a little bit after Doom, or maybe a little bit before Doom, because I think Doom is right in the middle of May. So yeah, this is awesome to hear that they have another showcase lined up. Not the biggest IGN fan, but one of their best proteges from IGN, Tina Amini, being part of the Xbox team, I think has been the standout draft pick as far as when it comes to these showcases. So if she's the one behind the Xbox portion of that, I trust that it'll be a knockout show. But looking forward to the games, and yeah, I'm just going to have to figure out my backlog even harder now to figure out where I'm going to play all these games. But yeah, it's awesome to hear breaking news. Although they let the cat out of the bag, not that that's suspicious from IGN, but then again, maybe it was a true accident, like when they leave off games coming to Xbox on some of their reels and stuff. But
the slander of it all, you're not wrong. They haven't done that in a while, so maybe Microsoft kind of pulled their coattails on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say this: Tina Amini is the MVP acquisition. I guess if you can say that, them hiring her was probably the best thing they've ever done, because since her initial hire, their showcases have been dynamite, like best in class.
Yeah.
And it's just, obviously she comes from IGN,
Mm-hmm.
and this partnership with IGN for ID at Xbox is good for both companies. I'm like you, Alex, and I mean, IGN is they are who we thought that they were, and sometimes they continue to be that. Some of their opinions in recent years have just been really wacky. But I think they're gonna have to get on board. I want to shout out Sin in the chat. Actually, yes, so welcome, Sin, as always. Good to see you here. Thanaros had me dying because when I was laughing, I read he said he saw me online. He says, I bet that MF is playing Avowed. And that's probably what I've been playing, because that's all I want to play. Like I said, I can't talk about it, and like I said, I'm working super hard on this video. It's going to be a real life to, like you'd see Randall Thor do or Colt Eastwood. I don't know if I'm going to be able to produce it to their level of excellence, but I'm going to do a full-on review and put that out there. Like I said, they gave me the game 2 weeks before, and I have an opportunity to spend a lot of time with it. And over the weekend, I want to say I put in just enough Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, maybe 14 to 15 hours between those 3 days. And that's not even counting what I've done before. And what I'm going to do as soon as I'm done here, I'm jumping right back to it to, continue my, my review. But look, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here for today's episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties up front where you heard me typing away. I hate when I have hiccups like that. Unfortunately, due to a computer update, my Windows was like, hey, we need an update. Oh, yeah, sure. Go change all my settings and don't tell me about it. It's fine. But that's actually shame on me for not actually checking. I just assumed that, everything it's working, so this is great. I didn't even check. So that's me being a kind of a crappy host. But it's all fixed, and we should not have any problems for the remainder of the week. Let me just catch up on, we have a gifted membership here. He's done it again, ladies and gentlemen. Nino Vistic, all the way from Hawaii. So aloha to you, my brother. Hopefully you and the fam are doing well. He has gifted, ladies and gentlemen, one Double Barrel Gaming membership, as he does most shows. That's very kind of you, very generous of you. We definitely appreciate it. But listen, hopefully you enjoyed the show enough to hit the like button. If you didn't and you want to hit the thumbs down button, it's still engagement. Hopefully, you are already subbed. If you're not subbed and you actually happen to check the show out after the technical hiccup, this is how it usually is. We talk about breaking news. We have fun. We laugh. I try to introduce, welcome in everybody that comes into the chat, because it's just my thing. I think if you're here, you should be recognized. And sometimes I don't get to everyone, and that kind of frustrates me as a creator. But when you see me listening, I'm just typing away, trying to get as many people to say hello, because it's important. If you take the time to be here, like I said earlier, you should be recognized, and I definitely try to welcome in everybody. It's just my silly thing, but I like being a nice guy. But that's going to do it for us here. Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell your brand. Because obviously, folks, if you didn't already know, Fuzzy Belvedere's YouTube channel is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. He's on the hunt for 1K, and you can get him there by going to the show notes, clicking on Fuzzy Belvedere's YouTube channel, and hitting subscribe. And you know what? If you're feeling extra generous, hit the bell icon to know every time he puts content up there. But he's not the only one in the household that's doing YouTube. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. His wife has an amazing horror podcast Friday evenings at 6 or 6:30 p.m. every Friday. It's called Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, and you should be subscribed to that if you like campy horror, AAA horror, or anything in the middle. They talk about a lot of stuff each and every week, Friday nights. Again, go check that out. Fuzzy Belvedere. Tell everyone where they can subscribe to you and the missus on both YouTube channels, but more importantly, subscribe and follow you on social media.
As always, Boom, love doing this on Monday afternoons. Breaking news and all, just talking about games, this hobby we all enjoy. I always love doing this. Thanks everybody in the chat. Greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to check us out. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Greatly appreciate the support. And for those who want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just do a search for Fuzzy_Belvedere or just Fuzzy Belvedere, all one word. You'll find me pretty much everywhere except for Facebook. And if you're into horror, whether it's games or even the movies, definitely check out my wife's podcast, Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fridays. I put the link in the chat. Last week we talked about Don't Suck, which was a movie with Jamie Kennedy and Matt Rife. Not the greatest movie, but still a fun time talking about it. We've had a ton of other movies that we've watched in the past and give our 2 cents on. Spoilers occasionally, but the key thing is some of these are the movies you either want to have in the background as noise while you're doing stuff around the house, or other ones where it's like, hey, you just want to chill, eat some popcorn, get your scared face on kind of thing. Yeah, some of those movies are on. We talk about those as well. But check us out Friday nights at 6. Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. Once again, links in the chat. Thank you for checking us out. Thanks again.
Well, thank you for being here as always. Shout out to Kind-Hearted Woman. She says her husband loves listening to you, Mr. Boomstick. That's very kind of you. Welcome to the chat. Thank you so much. We also have Parker Burris, 2, asking a question. He said, are we going to talk about Battlefield 6? Yes, on tomorrow's show. That information happened to pop out. And I know that I watched the video once. It's like 5 or just a pinch under 5 minutes. I'm trying to record it because I want to play it for us tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, will be the Xbox Factor podcast. Even though it's a multi-plat, that trailer looked dope. And you know something? Vince Zampella is the one leading the charge. And folks, I'm here to tell you, Battlefield looks to be back in the biggest freaking way, and it's probably because of that man's leadership. I mean, whatever that guy touches turns to gold. I'm super excited to get into Battlefield because I'm a Battlefield guy through and through. I actually at one point enjoyed Battlefield even more back in the days than Call of Duty, and the last couple of Battlefield, not so good, to be honest with you. But Vince Zampella, right? The OG Call of Duty guy, the guy that made Titanfall, that made one good Star Wars game because I didn't care so much for the second one. It's fine. He's his reigns, or his I should say his under his reign, it looks like Battlefield is back in a big way. I'm very excited. Parker, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll open up the show. And of course, tomorrow I'll be hanging out with Infinite Umbra as I do on Tuesdays, as well as Jamie Moran. And, who knows who might show up, but that's going to be a big topic for tomorrow as well. Of course, tomorrow also we'll be getting into the multi-plat rumors of one of the biggest trilogies in the history of man, especially of gaming, and that is the Gears of War trilogy. There's some talk about where that's going to show up, and it could be day and date. At this point, folks, we just have to accept that these things are happening. And we'll get into that more tomorrow. But thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, everyone, we super appreciate you taking the time to stop in, hang out, throw your thoughts and your theories into the chat. The chat was once again policed by one of the best in the business, and that is Boss Lethal, the best modder in the business, Lethal Papa, or as he's known as, AKA Boss Mod, Lethal Papa. Brother, we love you. Thank you so much for being here, always, and keeping these chats nice and safe. Again, folks, if you didn't know, he walks silently and gets you with a really, really big band stick. And I have to say pause after that. But thanks so much again, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you had fun. And we will see you, of course, on the next episode. But I want to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice, to live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.